Now we are going to try a type of simple pheasant tail nymph. Now the pheasant tail originally was just pheasant tail and copper, but we'll do some variations. It's a fly that you can make it look like a caddis, make it look like a mayfly. I'll just do some simple versions so it'll be something easy for everyone to learn. I'm just using hooks that I've got. So I'm using these hooks, and then I'm using 3.3 gold beads. So we're going to use pheasant tail. We're going to use copper. I'm actually going to use a red thread. Normally I use black or brown so that you can see. You can use lead if you want to put more weight on it. And the thoraxes, we're going to do different thoraxes. One, we're going to do peacock. Another one, we're going to do an orange mixed possum. And you also can put a little collar of chenille. So well, I'll just do the one main one first, and then I've got some half bodies done, and we'll just show you how to do the different thoraxes. So we start by threading the bead on with it's a countersunk onto the small hook. Then we get a thread and just bind your hook as we normally bind, starting at the beginning, cross hatching and doing a half hitch, making sure we're not going round the bend, that we finish on the straight. So I normally put a little bit of glue on here, and if your pheasant tail's long enough, you can actually tie the tail in and the whole thing. But I'll just tie a tail in, and then we'll do a separate bit of the body. So I just use the scruffy stuff on here. It doesn't matter as long as the tips are tidy. There's a nice clump there. So anything from 5 to 6 strands when you want them smaller. Now the length of this can be the width of the gap of your hook, or it can be a bit longer. I'm going to make these a little bit longer. So I'm just going to catch that on the top between my thumb and forefinger coming down. You can see that splaying out, and then I'm just going to wind this forward and then trim that off. So now I'm just going to get some longer fibre from up here, and about the same amount of strands. The bigger the hook, the more strands that you'll need. So then bring my thread back, and we're going to tie them in from the tip, because the fibres slightly get wider, and the little herl on them will get slightly wider. So I'm tying that in. And now we can tie the copper. Now the original one had a copper thorax. So if you were doing a copper thorax, you would actually just tie this in, leave enough to rib, and then you would build a thorax of a copper. We're just going to use it as a rib today. So I'm going to put it in and tie it in underneath. And we will use it for a little bit of weight as well. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue, which is just nail varnish, on there. You don't want too much. So now I'm going to wind this one turn behind my copper, and just letting it pull between my fingers. It is small and it's not very long, and work my way up. It's hard for you to see what I'm doing, but if you use pliers, it'll break. So there I've come up 3/4 of the way, and then I'm going to tie that off. It doesn't matter if you come up a bit more, because it'll go under the thorax. So I'll trim that, and then run your copper up and getting slightly wider. And you can here, if you want a bit more weight, you can put a bit of copper in here, because we are actually going to cover it, and then we can just tie that off. this one I'm just going to do the peacock. So I prefer the peacock around the eye because it's stronger. So all I'm going to do is get 3 hurls, these little bits at the side, run my hands down and tie them about 1 inch from the tip of the feather. Tie that in there. Trim those off. And the secret with herl, a lot of people have stopped using herl because it breaks, but it's actually still one of my favourite. It's actually natural UV. So I'm going to hold my thread, take my 3 and wind these around and around the thread. Your pheasant tail is too short. If it was longer, it would work really well. See, it's making a bit like a chenille looking body. And then we can just wind that round that thorax. And come up. And you can leave that fly like that. You can just tie that off. Or if you want to put something, a hackle around it, you can. But this is just simple, effective fly. You could put a bit of Antron. You could put a little bit of something on top of that if you want to track air bubbles. But that's just keeping it very simple. I'm just going to do another half hitch. And that's that. So the next one, I've got some already prepared just to show you different ways. And then I'm going to put my thread back on. So this time I'm going to do fur. Now you can just spin it straight on the thread, but I'll show you an easy way. You make a loop. You put glue on one side. Just nail varnish, just one side. And now it can be green. It could be this orange mix I've made up. So maybe we'll go orange this time because we've done a green. So I only need a little bit. So I pull it, roll it, and see that's very little, very fine. Now that's tapered that end, so I put the tapered end in, close the loop, spin it, make sure my thread's at the front, then I roll this around here. It's probably got too much, but see you can undo it, come up and catch that. Doesn't that look good? Very fishy fly. You can tease it out and then just tie that off. So that's that one there. So now we'll do another one. So for those that are only beginning, we can just, in the winter time, we used to sometimes just use, well, a lot of people use glow bugs and stuff like that, but you can actually use one of these, and we just get a hot colour chenille, or in the early days, the pink used to work really well. So we just get this, find the grain, which we run our hands down, see which way it's against the grain. This is the right way. Pull a bit of this off. Tie my thread off, tie this in, tie that in, trim, and we're only going to need one and come up and toe that because we don't need any more than that. So with my thread there, I pull that round like that. I'm just looking at that and thinking, yeah, no, that's fine. So there is trim it, pull the fluff off, and so you end up with a thread, and that will tie in, and then you can cut that. But very simple, very effective. You use so many different colours, so many different variations. And then you can do it with a back on it, but I just think as beginner class it may be a little much. There we are, and then just drop a little bit of glue. And there, either with your needle or with your brush. And that's finished.